today's session of Divorce Court. Larry Gunn says it didn't matter how hard he tried, he couldn't make his wife, Caryl, happy.
The man is out working, not playing around, not having an affair, not kicking up his heels, and you're complaining?
I didn't have to be stuck in a marriage.
She lost 40 pounds, dyed her hair blonde, got her tongue pierced.
I'm happier than I have been in 11 years.
And he says she cost them their home.
We got evicted because she flashed this boy here at the pool.
She bared her body?
Her breasts.
What? How does that make you feel?
It tore me apart.
You're living in the apartment building, the woman tells you she's married, but you start having an affair with her anyway?
We were friends.
Oh, this friendship again. Joe, remind me not to be your friend.
Today, it's the case of Caryl Gunn and her new boyfriend versus Larry Gunn in Divorce Court.
All rise. Court is now in session. Maybelline Ephraim presiding. You may be seated.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is a matter of Larry Gunn Jr. versus Caryl Gunn. I'm advised that you've been married for 11 years, but you've decided to get a divorce. Mr. Gunn, why?
Well, it's not me, Your Honor, it's her. I invested 11 years in this marriage. I sacrificed family and friends to move to Indiana to get a good job to provide for my family.
And what happened?
I traveled a lot. I worked hard. I noticed that she lost 40 pounds, dyed her hair blonde, got her tongue pierced.
And that's why you want a divorce? Because your wife lost weight?
No, ma'am.
And dyed her hair?
No, ma'am. While I was traveling, I received a call from her on Easter morning. Said she didn't want to be married anymore. So I sacrificed, I was up for a promotion. I sacrificed my promotion, a good job, good pension plan, good insurance, so that I could come home and see if I could try to work something out with this marriage.
So you quit your job to come home
You quit your job
to try to
months
put this
later.
marriage back together, to keep it together.
Yes, ma'am. And when I came home, I found out she was dating the maintenance supervisor of the apartment complex.
I was friends
Oh,
with the
instead of cleaning up the
supervisor.
complex, he's cleaning up your wife. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right, Miss Gunn?
No, I did let him know on Easter Sunday. I mean, we were having a conversation that led to, me just finally coming out and telling him. But he did not quit his job until months
Coming out
later.
and telling him what?
That I wasn't happy.
That's a great
I
Easter
told
present.
him-
I thought Easter we were supposed to be talking about the resurrected Christ, and you talking about somebody else resurrecting you. What is that?
I
That's
told
a
him
great.
on Easter that I wasn't happy, that I didn't think it was going to work out. I think it'd be better, if we just separated, got divorced. He didn't quit his job until it was June or July.
What is?
I asked him to come off the road, try to work things out, stay together as a family, and he told me the money was too good. But
And
I
you
asked,
complaining about that?
well, I asked him, I told him that there were more important things than money.
More important things than money? Is there more? Can you pay your rent without money?
No, he could have.
Can you pay anything that you need? Buy anything you need without money?
He could have taken a job that stayed in town, and he could have been a husband. He could have been, a father.
You're never satisfied. What's the issue? If he wasn't working, you'd be complaining about that. If he wasn't making enough money, you'd be complaining about that. The man is out working, not playing around, not having an affair, not kicking up his heels, providing. And you're complaining?
And my complaint is that, he was never home. He was never home.
Is that your real complaint? Or is all of a sudden that was no good for you because you found somebody else in a maintenance man who makes you feel a little better?
No, he was
just the
never
first
there. No, he was never there.
And
I
couldn't find anything to do to amuse yourself or to
Well, I
make you
did get
feel
a job.
good while he was at work? Other than the kids, you couldn't go and do some volunteer work?
I eventually got a job
All right.
and realized I could make it on my own without him supporting me.
And now you have this other person who is not going to work? You rather have a maintenance man than what kind of work you do?
I do trenchless technology on mainline sewers.
A technology person that's making pretty good money, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Probably substantially more than the maintenance man.
Yes, ma'am.
And so you would prefer that?
No, I was friends with a maintenance man. He helped me realize that if I wasn't happy, I could leave.
And how did he help you realize that? Told you could come to him?
No.
How did he help you?
That I
realize
didn't have to be stuck in a marriage. that I was able to, to get a job, I'd be just fine. I wouldn't have to, have someone support me for the rest of my life.
And he tricked you into that?
It wasn't a trick. He just,
And so you're satisfied now working every day?
I'm happier than I have been in 11 years.
Is that right? Well, Mr. Gunn, how do you feel about that?
Well,
She's saying that I relieved him of all that responsibility of taking care of me, and I'm happy without his money. Is that what she's telling you?
that sounds like it to me.
So how did that make you feel when you found out that she was dealing with the cleanup man, that he was mopping up your marriage? How did that make you feel?
Well, it tore me apart. But my children are my main priority, period.
So you quit your job and moved back to your hometown?
Yes, ma'am. At this point, we started having problems with money.
You started having problems with money?
A little bit.
What do you mean you started having problems with money? No, you didn't, because she was satisfied even though you were making less. You mean you started making less money?
Yes.
Less money didn't create any financial problems in this marriage, because she certainly was satisfied with the fact that you would come home and be there with her and make less. It caused problems?
It didn't cause... We had money problems because he refused to help pay the bills, because he refused to support me any longer.
But
that
you
if I
didn't...
wasn't happy in this marriage, he wasn't going to support me. He wasn't paying the rent. He wasn't paying the electric bill.
So what are you saying? So once he came back to town where you wanted him to be, and you told him that you were unhappy in the marriage because you had, the cleanup man over here, he stopped paying your rent? Is that what you're telling me?
I didn't have time to not pay the rent because we got evicted because she flashed this boy here at the pool.
What do you mean flashed him at the pool? She bared her body?
Her breasts.
No. And
what?
Larry, you called him.
Is this the boyfriend? Is this the maintenance man?
This is the boy she's living with now.
But is that the cleanup man?
No.
Oh, it's another one.
This is a different one.
And Larry, that did not happen.
What do you mean flashed him at the pool? She was in the house.
Yeah, I had a sheriff deliver this.
Let me see that. You mean you bared your breast at another person trying to get a new man?
No. Jim and I were friends. He was there. He knows this didn't happen. Our children were there.
Well, I have a letter from management that says, management had addressed to you, management has received several complaints that you have indecently exposed yourself at the pool. Due to the seriousness of the violation, we will be terminating your lease agreement effective immediately. Now, did your husband lie about you indecently exposing yourself? Let me hear your explanation. Maybe you didn't bare your breasts. What you call it? What'd you do?
I was at the pool with my children. I was at the pool with Jim. It was just like any other day.
And what did you do? Well, maybe you did it on a regular basis.
I kept my top on. There was nothing that was exposed.
When divorce court returns, Carol's new boyfriend takes the stand.
You're living in the apartment building. The woman tells you she's married, but you start having an affair with her anyway?
Yeah.
You all some bold people.
If you would like to have the judge hear your case in divorce court, call us toll-free at 1-877-311-2222 or email us at www.divorcecourttv.com. Divorce court is back in the case of Larry Gunn, who says his family was evicted from their home because his wife, Caryl, indecently exposed herself to their neighbors.
So why is maintenance says you indecently exposed
There
yourself?
was a problem between me and the management.
Because of the maintenance man?
I don't know if that was a problem or not between me and the manager of the apartment complex.
Did they fire the maintenance man when they found out he was having an affair with you?
No.
So you were evicted because of this?
Yes, ma'am.
Shortly after you got back?
Yes, ma'am.
And not paying
rent?
rent?
Because we didn't have a place to go, I footed the bill to go to a motel.
And not paying rent?
You took the family to a motel?
Yes, ma'am. We didn't have any other place to go.
And how long were you in a motel?
2.5 months.
And then what happened?
She got a job with him at his work.
So now she's working with this man?
Yes, ma'am. Also,
Larry, don't you think that you not paying rent had anything to do with us getting thrown out?
I don't know, but why did you need his money?
No, you didn't pay rent.
Why did you need his money?
I wasn't working at the time.
But you said that the maintenance man had shown you how you could have a great life without him. And you could go on and you could move on, and that you didn't need him. Why do you think he should have been paying rent? When you told him you didn't want him and the marriage was over because you found this newfound freedom.
We were still stuck living in the same place together. It was a lot easier living together. I would have been more than happy to chip in, once I started working and got a first paycheck.
But why?
But
since you had found this freedom and found out that you could work and you could be happy, you could be without him, as soon as you told him you didn't want him and you knew that you didn't need his money anymore, you should have immediately gone out to get you a job so you could pay the rent. And you should have said to him, don't come back because I don't need your money.
I couldn't afford the rent, not with the...
Oh, my goodness.
That's why I chose to move to a place I could afford.
And you moved after the eviction?
Yes.
Well, I don't think you made that choice. Looks like management made it for you. What's this gentleman here to tell me? Step forward.
I'll say that,
What's your name?
Jim Brewer.
And how did you meet her? At the poolside?
I met her at the pool.
Did she tell you she was married?
Yeah.
And,
But she was having
and you were
problems
living in the
her marriage.
apartment building too?
Yeah.
You all some bold people. You're living in the apartment building. The woman tells you she's married, which means that she has a husband that lives there, but you start having an affair with her anyway?
No, we never had an affair.
What'd you call
We were
it?
friends.
Oh, this friendship again. Joe, remind me not to be your friend. All right.
That was all.
Thank you very much. That's enough. All you did was just, add it to the credibility of what was going on. Here's a tenant, another tenant in the building. You're already married. You have a husband. That could cause real serious conflict in that building. Management probably was real concerned. Now, if we keep this going, what's going to be the next problem in this building? I'm not suggesting that any of that is right and that should be the response to infidelity, but it is a reality that people get hurt, they get angry when they don't expect their spouses to be messing around with somebody else. And that close? Come on. So now you're saying that it's his fault that you got evicted from the apartment because he didn't pay the rent.
I believe
So what
it,
you
yeah.
want me to, and he says it's your fault, right?
Well, we could have fought the indecent exposure thing had he paid the rent.
So now not paying the rent, what problem has that caused for you?
Well, I didn't pay the rent because for that one reason. After
And
the
as a
eviction
result of
notice
that,
came-
have you had any problems?
Yes, ma'am. I have a bad credit rating. That I have the children with me now. I'd like to try to file full custody, but I want to buy
You
a
have
house
two
for
of the
them.
children with you. I have one.
I want to buy a house for them and to continue providing a good life for them. But I have the rest of this lease hanging on me because we were evicted.
And how much is that? So they want you to pay for the balance of the lease that was owed,
Yes,
the rent
ma'am.
that was owed?
And I cannot buy a house without that.
$2,457. Wow. What's your position on that?
This is the first I've heard
That
of
it's
it.
all his fault? The first you've heard of it? Did you not know the rent wasn't paid? You told me the rent
I
wasn't
knew
paid.
the rent wasn't paid. I didn't know they had already they were coming after him.
So what did you think they were going to do? Just excuse it? And say, oh, she's so beautiful, and because she's such a wonderful person, we're not going to require her to pay rent. Did you think they were going to excuse it?
No.
So what do you mean?
I figured they'd get in touch with me too, and we'd both be responsible
Whose
for
name
it.
was on the lease?
Both of ours.
It is a letter addressed to both of you.
I never received
Did you
a
ever
copy.
contact them and try to find out what was owed? You thought he would pay it, right? You just said we got evicted because he refused to pay the rent. Do you believe you have any responsibility for this?
Not for getting evicted, no.
So therefore, you have no responsibility for paying the rent because you were evicted. Is
Had
that
he
what you're
paid the
saying?
rent, I think, he would have still been living there.
Had he paid the rent, he would have still
I would have been
living
more
there.
than happy to leave.
But you didn't leave.
I did eventually, after I was able, to get up enough money to move out on my own.
At the motel.
Well, now, we have a situation where both of you shared the apartment. I'm ready to rule on it unless either of you has something else you want to add quickly.
And you want to talk about my friendship with someone? I walked in to our neighbor's house with you and her in the bedroom.
No, you didn't.
And my children were all, and my children and her
So did
children
that-
were
what
all
is that-
sitting in the living room, and I said, "Where's your dad?" Oh, in the
Ms.
bedroom.
Gunn, what does that have to do with where we are now?
Well, I just wanted to bring that. He's all putting it on me, like, I was the one,
All
out
right,
doing
that's fine.
all wrong.
We're only talking about the fact, well, according to the letter, you were evicted because of your conduct, not because of his conduct. And he was not flashing himself or indecently exposing himself. So we're talking about your conduct at this point. We're talking about the eviction. We're talking about the $2,457 that is now owed as a result of that. That's what we are.
When divorce court returns, the judge renders her verdict.
Once you open your mouth and tell a man, I don't need your money, I can get along without you, why do you expect that they're going to continue doing what they were doing before?
And an update on the case of Rachel Basilio versus David Ross.
I was 17 years old. I didn't know what I was doing.
married.
I had no business getting married.
You asked me to marry you. I didn't ask you to marry me.
Divorce court will be back in session in a moment. Divorce court is back in the case of Caryl Gunn, who left her husband Larry because she says he worked too much and wasn't able to satisfy her needs.
Anything else?
Well,
About that issue only?
No, ma'am.
All right. The problem is that even though you were upset about her conduct and the fact that you were evicted, or the fact that she told you she didn't want you anymore, and of course I'm sure that that hurt you, and you believed as a result of that, why should I do anything for her? You have to do something for her because you're still married to her. You have to do something for her because your name was still on this lease. If you wanted to move out, then you should have moved out and asked the landlord to cancel the lease as to you, and you should have left her there. Once you came home, realized what was going on, and you were upset about it. But as long as you remained living there, you were responsible for the rent as well as she. You too were responsible for the rent. You can't put it all on your husband and say he should have paid. The both of you should have paid. And once you open your mouth and tell a man, I don't need your money, I can get along without you, why do you expect that they're going to continue doing what they were doing before? Again, we have to deal with reality and human emotions and human feelings. That is going to be a normal reaction when a person says, I don't need your money. Okay, you don't need my money, I'll keep it. But it turns out that you really did need his money. And you're just talking off the top of your head. You got fooled by a little fling you had thinking that I don't need anything else. But you weren't thinking real clearly because you didn't have a job. So how were you going to support yourself? You should have at least waited till you got a job to talk bad about what you didn't need. So since it's a joint responsibility, I have to make each one of you are jointly responsible for this obligation. The order of the court is that each of you will pay half of the debt. Now, you must understand that the apartment owner can come after either one of you to collect all of it. And if both of you are working, they'll probably get a judgment and collect from both of you. But if it's only one of you working, they'll probably get a judgment and only collect from one of you. This court's ruling is that both of you is responsible. So, Mr. Gunn, if it happens that you're the only one working and they take your money from your check, you can go back after her, and vice versa. So that's the order of the court. Court's adjourned.
All rise. Parties may leave the courtroom.
When divorce court returns, an update on the case of Rachel Basilio versus David Ross.
I come and get her, I bring her home. She got hickeys all over her neck.
He yanked me up a flight of stairs by my hair.
Closed captioning for divorce court provided by. If you would like to have the judge hear your case in divorce court, call us toll-free at 1-877-311-2222 or email us at www.divorcecourttv.com. And now for an update on a previous case in divorce court. Rachel Basilio said she made a big mistake when she asked her husband David to marry her.
I was 17 years old. I didn't know what I was doing.
married.
I had no business getting married.
You asked me to marry you. I didn't ask you to marry me. I told you no.
A 17-year-old asked you to marry her.
I thought it was a joke. It was funny, ha-ha. You talked me into it. We've tried to have children. Children didn't work.
I had 6 miscarriages, Your Honor, and he was not there for me.
I come and get her, I bring her home. She got hickeys all over her neck.
He yanked me up a flight of stairs by my hair, took me in the bedroom, started choking me, and kicked me with his steel-toe boot.
You should have been arrested.
Rachel said David put her personal belongings in storage after she left him and refused to give them back to her. But the judge dismissed the case because Rachel could not prove that David took any of her things. Rachel now has a child with another man and says she plans to get married and have more children as soon as she graduates from business school. David says he is ready to settle down and plans to marry his new girlfriend and start a new family very soon.
I guess at least half's better than nothing.
Larry, I'm sorry, for everything that's happened. I never set out to hurt him. It's just that things didn't work out. I wasn't happy, and I figured, we could each get on with our life. Each of us could be happy.
I feel great. I mean, I believe now that I could provide a better life for my children.
Larry always put money ahead of his family. That was the most important thing to him.
She abandoned us in a motel to go live with him.